I bet you didn't know this. On a given day, a teacher makes 4,200 decisions that is related to instruction. And one of these decisions is very important because it impacts student learning. Stick around and I will let you know what this decision is. Teaching is already difficult as it is. But imagine making all these decisions. Over 4,200 decisions every day, and each decision impacts student learning. And one of this very important decision is their ability for wait time. What do I mean? When teachers ask questions, usually they would wait for students to respond. The length of the teacher's wait time depends on how fast or how well the student process that information so they can respond back. So it's very important for teachers to wait and monitor their wait time every time they ask questions. And there are recommended seconds of wait time that teachers should have or should do depending on what subjects and depending on the types of questions they ask their students. Truth of the matter is, for a lot of teachers, that silence in between the teacher asking a question and the student responding seems like eternity. It's an uncomfortable situation that teachers usually go through when they're just standing there in silence waiting for the students to respond. And the reason for this is because teachers have this innate feeling that if the students don't respond right away, they may not be doing their job as effective as they could. But for teachers to be effective, they really need to be comfortable in that silence after they ask the question. An important strategy to improve your wait time as a teacher is being patient. It is important for you to be patient because I know as a teacher too that that quietness, that silence is so intimidating, especially if you have a supervisor or a principal observing you. Because sometimes when students are quiet or everything is silent, we as teachers feel that we're not doing our job. We're so used to feedback. We're so used to ourselves talking all the time. Or if we're not talking, we're so used to our students responding to our questions, responding to our instruction. So you really need to be comfortable in being silent. So patience is key. The one thing that I do in order to get myself patient is after I ask the question, I would count the seconds. I would go in my head, I would say 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, and so on and so forth. Those are the things that you can do to improve your wait time. So how much wait time should a teacher have after they ask a question? Well, that depends on what type of questions they're asking. It also depends, and like I said before, on the type of subjects that they are teaching. For example, if the question requires a quick answer or a very surface level uh, respond, like say for example, it's just a quick review or a memorized answer, then the teacher should give the students between about 3 to 5 seconds of wait time before they follow it up with a question or they move on to another student if that student doesn't respond to the question. So very important. I would recommend to wait for at least 5 seconds. This gives all the students, even the ones that are not called on, an opportunity to process that question. Especially our low learners or our students who have special needs. However, if the question is a higher order thinking question, or it is a discussion question that requires the students to provide more evidence or a more thought-provoking response, then a teacher should wait for at least around 12 to 15 seconds for the students to process that question and be able to provide a well thought of response. Sometimes, if the question is for subjects like math or social studies, when the requirement is for the students to provide more of an evidence, a lot of times a teacher should wait for about 15 to 20 seconds. I know that seems like eternity for a teacher, but we must remain calm and embrace the silence when our students are not responding. Because during that time, our students are thinking, processing, and coming up with their response. So in order to get comfortable with this kind of system, you actually have to practice doing this. So the most important thing to do here during wait time is to resist the temptation of saying something or adding additional information while you as a teacher is waiting for a response. Do not move on to another student and give your student the time to process that question. Very important. Embrace that silence before you move on. Now, if you see your student struggling, by all means, add more information or ask another student to help out. So another way to do this is use wait time consistently. What do I mean by use time waiting consistently? It means that you have to do this every day and you have to be very comfortable in using this in all of your subjects. Not even just all your subjects, in other forms. When you're having discussion in class or when you're just planning with your students about certain activities that you're going to do. Do a wait time. Use it consistently. That way, the students will expect you to be quiet or to be silent at specific time. When you do this consistently, your students will also get used to the silence and they will expect the silence. At the same time, they will feel more comfortable to really think about their answer so that they are not rushed. Another strategy to use is to read the body language of your students as you wait during their wait time or during your wait time. A lot of times when we ask a question and we're waiting for a response, we actually just stand there and kind of stare at the student that we're asking the question to. As a matter of fact, the best use of your wait time is look around the class. Look around if your students are actually engaged in thinking about your questions. So read their body language. You will know as a teacher, you know your students as well as anybody. You will know if they were actually thinking and processing your questions. That gives you an opportunity more to kind of reassess if your question is right on or it's in a confusing. Because if your question is confusing during wait time, a lot of the students will actually look at each other. That's the kind of cue that, hey, I'm confused. Can you help me out here? Right? Or a lot of times the students like, right? So it's not a look of thinking, it's more of a look of confusion. So very important, read the body language of your students during wait time. This will help you reassess and it will help you gauge what type of follow-up questions you should ask. The last strategy that I want to give you in improving your wait time is actually pretty obvious. It's pretty straightforward. I would usually tell the students after I ask them questions, I would say, you have 10 seconds before you give me the answer. So I would put the timer and give them that 10 seconds. A lot of times when we do that, the students get trained to wait for them to process their answer before answering back. So that way, it's an obvious reminder for yourself that you have to wait, and it's an obvious reminder for the students that they have that much time when they have to think about their answers. Okay, so you don't really necessarily have to count internally and say 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. You can just tell them you have 5 seconds, or you have 10 seconds, or you can say for this discussion question, you have 15 to 20 seconds before you give me your respond. All right, that way everyone knows the expectation. So I would usually get a timer on my cell phone or just a little alarm clock and put that at the desired time frame. And then when it rings, that gives the students the go signal to provide me with an answer. So I hope that you utilize or at least try this out. Do wait time, because I know for a fact that it will help your students improve their learning. It will certainly help their critical thinking, because you're giving them enough time to process their information and be able to provide you with a complete answer. Maraming salamat po sa panonood. Hanggang sa muli.